We're here with William Leviter from BMLL on SmarterMarkets at FIA Boca. Thanks for joining us, William. I really appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. And I wanted to ask you if you could share with our listeners a little bit about your company, about BMLL, and what you see your role as in markets.
Thank you very much for having me. It's great to be here and to talk about that. So BMLL, we are a historical data company. We capture the trading intentions of every listed venue in equities, ETFs, and futures. Our focus this year is really to grow out that equities coverage and then start focusing on the future side of things as well. What do I mean by historical market data? So we take a T+1 recording of every order that's sent to an exchange in all of its disparate formats. We harmonize that into a consistent global format. So whether you're looking at port bellies on CME, Brent and ICE, Bund and Eurex, all of those futures contracts look the same. So the data scheme is consistent. Any idiosyncrasy that comes with the exchange, be those flags, be it trading condition codes, are kept but harmonized across those different exchanges. We then provision that in a cloud-hosted environment, so our users can come in, access the data without needing to build any infrastructure. It's straight out the box, and we provision that alongside a suite of APIs and documentation so that you can get to speed really easily and go out to market and get better trading outcomes for your customers, do better execution analysis and research, and fundamentally make a difference in your workflow more easily.
Wow, and as you put that data together, are you also putting back a long history?
Yeah, so when we buy the data, and we buy the data specifically, we buy three things. We buy an ongoing daily delivery of that data at the end of the day. We buy as much data as the exchange can give us. So in certain more sophisticated exchanges, that can be upwards of 5 to 8 years, which is what our customers love about us. In other instances, it's typically 3 years. And the final thing we buy is the licensing, right? And licensing is a big part here because we're vendor of record. So we buy the license to derive content from that data, the right to distribute that data, and the right to distribute the derived content as well. So when a customer comes to us, they get a long list of history, they get the harmonized format, and they don't have to worry about downstream licensing for the historical data.
And at this stage, who are your customers? Are they institutions, more individual traders?
So typically we think about, we are predominantly B2B. We have a couple of instances where we've dealt with individual traders, but that's not really our mainstay. We sell to the sell side, and that's everyone from the tier 1 bulge brackets all the way down to regional banks who are looking to get into the algo space, develop their own proprietary algos rather than maybe white labeling a solution. And everyone from, as I said, tier 1s all the way down to regional banks. We then we buy data from the exchanges, but we also sell data to the exchanges. So, we've got all of European equity exchanges on as clients. They use us to kind of highlight the value of the liquidity on their exchanges, build out new products, look and see what the impact of potential regulation coming in. With the US, we've got Reg NMS, with MiFID II, iterations thereof, and the impact of those regulations on their lit order books and their markets. And then finally, the buy side. And that's where we're getting very, very excited about as a big growth potential for BMLL going forward. And that's everyone from the tier 1 systematics all the way down to your nascent funds. And we recently did a press release and a case study around a very interesting fund called Magma. Magma came to us because they were looking to go to market quickly, and rather than spending all of that money on building that infrastructure, which as far as we're concerned is commoditized, they adopted the BMLL solution and were able to get to alpha far quicker and far more effectively and efficiently than had they had to build all that infrastructure themselves, which in turn enabled them to raise more capital because the use of that capital was to go straight into the fund, not into building out infrastructure.
Well, I know I spent a lot of years as a research analyst in one of the large banks, and getting clean data in a common format that's usable, it's a tremendous amount of work, takes a tremendous amount of effort. I imagine that's a big part of the value proposition.
Exactly. We are democratizing access to that kind of information that only the tier 1 systematic funds have had. But instead of doing it for the use case that they're looking at, so if you're trading US equities, you might only look at the S&P 500, for instance, because below that, there's not enough liquidity for you to put a risk position on. So your ETL pipelines, your data ingestion pipelines, are only focused on the top 500 stocks. We've covered every single stock on every single of the exchanges, ATSs, and all the trade reporting facilities, so that you get a complete picture out the gate. So we're democratizing access to everyone at a fraction of the cost of building that infrastructure yourself.
And I imagine, much of the talk at the conference, much of the talk in markets this year has been around artificial intelligence, LLMs, and those having a voracious appetite for clean, well-formatted data. Are you seeing that have a big impact in people looking for what you're providing?
Exactly. So what do traders do? They assign a fair value to a security, and if their fair value is above the current market price, they buy, and if it's below the current market price, they sell. So effectively, every single person, every trade that's ever existed has been doing some form of AI or some form of intelligence based on historical data, right? But now you've got technologies that are able to consume multiple different sets of data. You need a clean baseline upon which to build those hypotheses and test them. And where better to test those hypotheses than in the data environment that's got every single potential trading intention, not just the trades that happened, but all the trades that didn't. All the indications of where traders think their fair value for that asset price is, that's been captured. Not only has it been captured, because we've got every single order in the order IDs, we're able to track them through the book. So you can see how consistently traders thought assets were overvalued or undervalued. And therefore, whenever you're looking at, the impact of, say, FOMC minutes, or you're looking at non-farm payrolls, all of these indicators, we can see exactly what the release of that note or the release of that number had on the market directly to the nanosecond. So you can really start to build a picture of how markets are truly trading, which is why our sort of catchphrase is the future was created yesterday. So today's trading intentions impact tomorrow's prices.
And here at Boca at the conference, there's been a lot of technology companies coming, I think probably relative to past years, a lot more focus on that. How is the reception you're receiving with the industry participants that you're meeting with? How open are they to being able to incorporate, in your case, new data into their legacy systems?
So historically, most firms have not been focused on what we call level 3 data, so market by order. And the reason for that is that it's an incredibly sizable data set. I mean, we sit on petabytes of data. Moving that around is complicated. So what we've done this year, and we've really gone out to market hard, is we've built out a level 1 and a level 2 feed, which is much more typically consumed by market data vendors, market data technology companies, and firms like that. And the reason why you want to come to someone like BMLL is that because we've got the level 3 data and we've done all that harmonization, all the fields that you might have to get in a separate data package, they all come with us. They're all harmonized, they're all normalized, so that you can see exactly what's happening across these different venues without having to re-engineer your stack every time you want to expand into a new market. So what we're seeing is the partnership opportunities here, which is one of the main reasons we keep coming here, are how can we help get better data at the point where customers want to consume it. What we want to end up being distribution mechanism agnostic, whether you consume it from us, whether you consume it via a third party, whether you consume it directly and then send it on to your own clients, which we have customers doing. What we want to do is make sure that you have the highest quality data so that when you're making a trading decision, when you're running an algo, when you're looking at execution analytics, you're getting the data that's truest to what is actually addressable and applicable to you.
And you're not only supplying data, you're also using, I imagine, a lot of technology to be able to put together these data sets. It's a tremendous amount of work.
Yeah.
Have there been some improvements in market technology and the technology that the different participants are using, the exchanges that makes?
So one of the things that we did very early on was work collaboratively with the exchanges on defining some of their historical market data products. Right now we have a cloud backbone. We're all in AWS, and we're working with certain parts of AWS to understand how we can optimize the managed services AWS provides. And in doing so, we're kind of making the ecosystem, in our mind, a bit better. And there are there are loads of cloud-to-cloud provision. So we have a partnership and took in an investment from Snowflake as well. So there we're being data delivery agnostic by working with Snowflake on being cloud agnostic. So our cloud strategy has turned into a delivery mechanism that enables firms who are maybe not AWS backboned to use Snowflake to get that data.
And that's the last thing I wanted to ask you about is, if you think about the industry, you've spent time now, as you said, kind of going through the guts of it and seeing how things are stored, how they're delivered, whether it's, old systems on servers, clouds, probably Excel spreadsheets hanging around somewhere.
You'd be surprised how many of those there are.
Quite a few. I was curious, what do you see as the big challenges and the big opportunities on the technology data side for the industry? And what does the industry need to do to really kind of embrace the technology that's available to kind of take it up to the next level?
That's a great question. So I think one of the key elements, as you say, is distributed data, right? If you run a trading desk, you kind of want to hold on to your data, right? And I would consider data in two formats. There's private data, so your trades, and then there's public data, the rest of the market's trades. Now there's alpha in both of those data sets, but one of them you can create utility not only internally within your team. So if you've got two different US teams, why don't you pool that data? And if you've got two US teams and you've got a European team or an APAC team, why are you holding the same public market data, because there's overlap and whatever, in three different locations, badly stored, on-prem, costing you money just to keep the lights on a data set that you might not be able to use or access? So a lot of our big tier one customers, the problem isn't that they've got the data or not got the data. The problem is they can't spend 3 days accessing the data, or even worse, months when they want to run a new research project, because they've got to go and book resource from the server team, go and speak to technology, run it, and then go and speak to people in the market data team to get access to the market data, wait for 3 weeks for that to be transferred into a server that they can use, right? So one of the key challenges has to be around the divergence and proprietary nature of trade data and public market data. There is no alpha anymore in parsing and storing historical market data. There's alpha in what you do with that data, the analytics you build, how you integrate those analytics into your trading workflows. But ultimately, market data is a public good. So let someone who is the market data experts deal with the stewardship and the complexities of managing the market data, and you, as a trader, as a trading firm, as an analytics firm, deal with servicing your clients better by focusing your time on what really matters to them, not on the infrastructure and the engineering.
Right. And is there a lesson that they could learn for handling their private data that you've learned in being able to assemble the public market data?
Keep everything. The number of firms we speak to who are latency sensitive and as a result have cut corners on the storage and the information they keep in their stored data, and now regretting it because they've grown up into a more complicated and more comprehensive system, or they're dipping their toe for the first time into quant trading and suddenly realizing that all of these fields that they have lost in the real-time space, they're now trying to go back and backfill, and that's costing them and causing them a lot of concern and a lot of energy and time. So what we would say is co-locate your data with your compute and keep all the fields that you can to ensure that you've got the best flexibility in your private market data. Everything that's public should really be centrally stored, at worst, at best outsourced to a third party like us, or there are others, but mainly us. Sorry for the sales bit. And you should really be focusing on delivering value to your customers, not on building, maintaining, and data infrastructure.
Terrific. Thanks for sharing.
No,
really
you're more than
appreciate
welcome.
talking
Thank you for
with you
having
today.
me.
Terrific. Enjoy the rest of the conference.
Yeah, thank you very much.